begin with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, on the consent agenda, under item 1, approved minutes, please add County Board of Adjustment and Equalization minutes of 6/14 of 21. Those are in your packet as well. We'll have to wait on the consent agenda to approve the whole thing. We do not have the commissioner's warrant list yet, okay, so we'll have to do that in a little bit. Okay. At approximately 9:40, I want to talk about state of Minnesota potential shutdown July 1st, 2021 with Auditor Treasurer Tyler Reich. And last item of the day is to do the closed session. At the other business, please pencil in AMC legislative update. We talk about that, what they were talking about yesterday at the AMC board meeting.
Mr. Chair, with those additions, and then also with that pending addition of warrants, I will approve the amended agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Nick.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, first item for me today would be to approve the bonding agreement and accompanying resolution for the County Road 18 box culverts. Got our paperwork back from the state. This one's same as all the other ones we've done, nothing unique about it. But I would like to get it approved and submitted before a potential shutdown, just to make sure things keep rolling for us, so.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Second. Moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next up, I would like to set a bid opening date for 3 box culvert projects up in the Ruthven area. These aren't in the Topeka Shiner area, so there's less environmental restrictions, so that's good. I picked July 27th because the state has a small fund of like auto parts sales tax bond money. That'll be coming out anytime, and I would like to get out in front of that. Also, by letting them at this time, if we have a decent fall, they might get built this fall yet. It's possible. So, we waited because there was a 4th one we wanted to add, but we weren't able to get that one in this group. So that's why we waited. But if we wait any longer, we'll have more competition with the contractors, and I don't want that. So,
Okay. I'd move for approval.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
all right. Next up, I was contacted by a private pit owner. He has some leftover aggregate material that meets the requirements for our roads. It's in the northwest part of the county. We have quite a bit of work to do up there. So I told him I'd be willing to, look over his pricing, whatever. He got me some prices. And it's not much more expensive to buy his than to haul ours. And excuse me, what he's asking for his is not much more expensive than what ours costs. Then we still have to haul ours. So his is actually cheaper once you consider hauling. And we're going to get probably 3 times as much done in the same amount of time. Thinking back to the road and bridge hearing, we had a lot of people requesting improved gravel surface quantities or, just work on our gravel roads. So, this would help. We'd be getting more done in the year. That being said, I understand it might be kind of a tough pill to swallow that, we own our own gravel pit. Now we want to buy from somebody else, but it's cheaper. I mean, I feel firmly that this is the way to go, but, if you don't want to, I'd understand that too. But
No, that makes perfect sense. It really does. Because you have to, as you have done, figure our cost, not only the material, but the labor, the hauling to get it there.
Yep.
So is this gentleman going to actually apply it, or is he going to stockpile it?
No, it's already put up. He made it a while ago, and he sold off a bunch of it, but there's some left.
Oh, so we're going to pick it up at his pit.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so his pit is on that map, that I think I included.
Backside of your document, Mr.
As you can see, it's right, that's the area we would use for this pit, and then, I show ours, so you can see it's quite, it'd save us a lot on haul distance.
It makes sense to me.
Okay, good.
You don't need specific, well, I suppose because of the dollar amount, you need action on this.
Well,
If you'd like, I'll make the motion that we go.
yeah,
There's
I put it, I don't know how much we'd want.
work area, that's where the pit is.
The other one's clear over here.
I don't know how much of this we'd even want to buy. I want to try some to make sure it's going to perform like we want.
Sure.
But assuming we think it's good, I'd buy everything there. So I don't know. I mean, I know I budgeted for gravel this year, so according to the purchasing policy, I maybe kind of, I don't know if I necessarily need board action. If you want to, that's fine. But I mainly just wanted to point it out because just wanted to be open about it. It might look kind of weird to some that we're doing that. So
I
I wanted to
appreciate
make
that.
sure you're up to speed. So
Plus, there's less wear and tear on our equipment.
Well, in time,
yeah, yep.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
It'll save on our pit if nothing else.
Right.
Extend
And
the life of our pit.
Correct.
obviously, if we can do it for less money, that's good news.
Yep. And we can get more done in a day
Right.
by
Win-win-win.
hauling this short. So, we get more of our roads covered and built up. So I'm all for it.
Sounds good.
Right?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next item I have would be, as you remember from the road and bridge hearing, we talked about, it's brought up the condition of our gravel roads. We took a stretch kind of by Holland, and we did, we're cleaning the ditches out good. We're trying that to improve drainage, and we'll add gravel. See if that helps with the condition of the road in the spring. Then I did a little bit of research, and as far as tile costs, I think that's going to be about $9,000 to $13,000 a mile. So I'm just throwing it out there, see if we want to try to tile a couple miles of road too, and kind of see what we get the biggest bang for the buck out of. There's 25 miles we'd like to work on eventually, but at 10,000 a mile, we'll just say for easy numbers, that's a huge investment. So I thought maybe we want to start small, just make sure we get the results we want out of it before we pull the trigger on a larger scale project. So that being said, it's also possible we may just say add 6 inches of gravel to another one of these stretches, no tile or ditch clean, and just kind of get a sample size of what we're all getting for results out of our different operations. So I don't have anything in particular, like with these 2 stretches we picked out. I talked with the maintenance supervisor on them. I think I attached a map of those 2 spots as well. The south one from Highway 75 to New Alta Dairy, that's the one that got destroyed how many years ago during construction. We were told that gets 9 full truckloads of milk out of there every day. I don't know if that's true or not, but that alone is a lot, and I'm sure there's also feed traffic and everything else. So, so that road is, it's a heavily used road. Another one we kind of picked was, just kind of a little different geographical area, I don't know if weather patterns vary a little bit, it might be nice to kind of spread them out and get a better idea of what's happening, but, that one's up by, it's on our County Road 73 west of Kaz. We can try both or none or one of these. We just had to pick something, I guess, throw out there, so.
So 10,000 a mile to tile it.
That's my guess.
Just
And
ballpark, yeah.
Tile prices are inflated. I mean, this is not a quote. I haven't
Yeah,
asked
can you
for.
even get tile right now? Yeah, so it's,
Yeah, we'll see. I knew if I didn't put it down, I'd be asked what I thought it'd cost, so I just,
well, and also, you'd mentioned putting gravel on instead. Did you say 6 inches?
yeah, it's,
And what would that cost per mile?
I didn't do the numbers on that. I guess I probably kind of put that aside, because no matter what we do, I want to put
Right.
a large layer of gravel on top when we're done. We did that on our County Road 15, and it actually worked very well. But that's a state aid road. That might have been built better than some of these smaller ones, these county maintained township roads. So I don't know, I'm not convinced that it's fair to compare those. Maybe it is, maybe not, but
Well, and we've had a couple where we have tiled them so far.
Yes.
And how much longer does that prolong the life of that road? How much gravel does that save you by having it tiled? So a lot of questions, I guess.
I don't know how to answer that, I guess. And, we did one by Hatfield. I believe the farmer offered to tile it himself if we would put a bunch of gravel on it, and that's been performing very well. So I'm very optimistic about this, but still, it's a big investment, I don't want to just dive into that and, because if something would go sideways, that's a lot of money, so.
And with the heavy truck traffic on that road with the tile underneath, have we done any studies to see how long that tile will actually last? Because that will eventually crush.
It wouldn't surprise me if it would, but I suspect it'll be worth fixing.
Yeah.
When it happens, we'll probably figure out.
Where the wet spot's at, where to dig.
Yeah, we'll start digging, we'll maybe find it crushed somewhere, and then we'll just know, yep, time to replace it, so.
Well, it sounds interesting. It's a good concept.
Yeah, I think it's worth experimenting. I just a little reluctant to just dive into a $250,000 project, so I think this is a reasonable first step, so.
I think these are two good test areas, though.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Geography
yeah,
is
they're large livestock facilities, so, we have, like I said, 25 miles identified, and they're all pretty much at livestock facilities, so they get a lot of traffic, they employ a lot of people, so, I think it's fine starting there.
Mr. Chairman, good gravel roads are important, and dry gravel roads are even better.
Right.
You can't hardly ruin a dry gravel road. When they ruined the New Alta one is when it was wet.
Right,
And getting it dry one way or the other, either cleaning out the ditch or putting tile in, sounds like a good idea to me,
Right,
keeping them dry.
I agree.
I think it's a good use of the wheelage tax money, like you noted too.
yep, and that's kind of the type of thing that is set aside for, we might have to put money into our paved roads, supplement our state allotment. We have a few straight county blacktop roads, for that. Some of these large culverts that don't qualify for bridge funding, that, and, this type of thing, so. I feel like that was the intent of it the entire time, this type of project too, so.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll move for approval.
Okay,
With second.
okay, any further discussion?
Okay, I
All
guess.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I guess one more question I have to that is, would you like to see us just get quotes from a couple local tiling places, or should we put together something to advertise? It'd take longer if you advertise, but
Quotes.
just get quotes and, okay. Who locally does stuff like that?
Thanks, Steve. You got some companies that the ditch committee.
Evans, Sauce Brothers from Leota area, do a lot of tiling.
Okay.
Johnson ditching from the Lake Wilson area.
Who's the contact for that? Is it?
Can't remember his first name. From Lake Wilson?
Well, that could be. Okay, I feel like I talked to an Engbarth at one time, but I can't remember who he worked for, so. maybe-
Yeah, there's an Ingbarth that's,
With Johnson ditching?
Preble has mentioned his name too. with-
Okay, I
with-
thought that's
with
who he
Johnson
said.
ditching.
Okay,
Remember his first name though.
well, I'll get quotes from those three, and if anybody else pops up, I'll ask them too, and we'll kind of go.
Can I ask a question? When you clean out a ditch, what do you do with that material? It's usually a mixture of mud and gravel and
Kind of depends.
weeds and,
Yeah, if the farmer wants it, we'd probably dump it out there if it's cheaper than hauling it away.
yeah,
We've had field washouts sometimes. I think we filled in with them.
backfill.
Yeah, it just starts chewing back into the field, and we might fill that washout in with it. Kind of depends, I guess.
Really not good for much of anything if
I suppose it varies.
it's material, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But we can use it for fill at our pit or whatever, so kind of cover up out there, but yeah, from time to time, we might spread it on private property if it's cheaper than the alternative of where we'd have to haul it to, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody have anything else for me? Otherwise, that was it for me for the day. It's not. All right,
Thank you.
sounds good, thank you.
Personnel?
Mike's here if we want to take him.
Okay.
Chairman. Is Keith coming?
He's got another appointment, so he's gonna make it if he can, but we'll have to wait.
Okay.
Whatever you guys wanna do.
Okay, if we don't have to, you might as well come on up.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, a couple of weeks ago, we had a patrol squad that was in a crash and got totaled. We've worked with the insurance company and come to an agreement on it being totaled and the amount of payout. Due to that, we're kind of in a bind then to replace that. We're fortunate enough we didn't dismantle one already. We were going to move to the jail, so we do have that one to use, but the plan wasn't to keep that one on the road because it's been costing us some money in repairs. So because we're in the middle of the year and with the availability of everything, as we well know, it's been challenging to try to find something. What I did is last week I called all of the three major vendors, Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, that hold the CPV contract, which we're a member of. With purchasing in that contract, we don't have to do competitive bidding, but the problem then is do they have the vehicles? 10-board Ford in St. Cloud has 5 2021 Explorers on the lot, and they did last week. They might not this week, but they are the right color that we need by statute, and they're anywhere between $36,000 and $38,000. North Country Chevrolet in Hibbing, who we've done business with before, formerly known as Ranger Chevrolet. They have a Tahoe there for $38,500, and they also have now they've got a pickup there for $40,000, but that wouldn't be what we were looking for. And then there's another what they call an SSV, a Special Service Vehicle Silverado pickup, for $33,550. And Dodge of Burnsville holds the Dodge contract for that, and they don't have anything and won't get anything until 2022. So, looking at the Ford and the Chevrolet off that CPV contract, the sheriff wanted to request at this point, and we're still waiting to, what they did on the Silverado is he wants to request the purchase of the Silverado for $33,550. However, when I called yesterday to confirm with Bob O'Hare, they've got one sitting there, one coming in, but the other salesman for Fleet quoted both of them out, and they're waiting for the response from the quote of the one that's coming in. So we're making the request for the purchase of the pickup if we can get it. If we can't get it, then we were probably leaning more towards the Tahoe, then that would be $38,500. And then the reasoning for that over the what's called the 2021 Explorers, the Ford Explorers, is simply because they've changed a lot of the interior on the Ford, so we can't use the equipment that we've got in the current Fords anyways. And for the price amount difference and looking forward to resale, we feel that Tahoe will hold together better. And talking to other people who have Tahoes, other departments, they're turning out to be less expensive to maintain too than the Ford. With that being said, I guess it's kind of, everything's moving so fast with it, it's a moving target. So really, I guess we're looking for the board to approve the $33,550 with the understanding that if we can't get that vehicle, we might have to turn to that Tahoe. Without that, it's going to be doing local bids like we've done. What we're finding out though is the vehicles just aren't available because they're simply not making them, or the make dates for the new 2022s aren't starting until fall. And that's common. We're just in that time of year where that's what happens. Just a note for financing, we do have $15,000 left in our over $10,000 budget for purchase of vehicles. And we also got paid out $14,825 on that older vehicle. So we're kind of almost there anyways for funding, but we will, need to spend a little extra than what we do have. So that's what we're up against today, I guess, so.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve and authorize the Sheriff's Department up to the price of that Explorer as well, too.
For the Tahoe?
The Tahoe, excuse me, yes, the Tahoe.
38.
They're up to that amount, but yet give them the authorization. It's a moving target. It's very, very fluctuates so much. And with it being an insurance claim, shortage of vehicles, for us to say you can have the Silverado only would just hinder you. So I move that we authorize them to buy either vehicle, whichever one they can get the quickest and cheapest.
Yeah, I'll support that.
Okay, any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The new Alta Dairy Road is a good idea too. Got some phone calls on that.
It's a bad one.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathy.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have a couple different items for the board this morning to consider. The first one, which I just handed out, is the Pipestone County Voluntary Reduction in Hours Program. And this is a program that was started back in 2009 during the recession as a tool to possibly save money on the budget. It's been used over the years. We currently have 2 employees on this program to reduce their hours on a regular basis. They're hired for a full-time position, but they choose to reduce their hours. It is subject to the department head approval. on whether or not they want to approve this. It can be for a short block of time, or it can be ongoing. It can also be utilized, and we haven't had this for a while, but it can be utilized as a furlough type situation where you would just take time off in an unpaid block of time. We've also had different employees use it over the years. As they get closer to retirement, they maybe want to work a shorter work schedule, but they don't want to do the phased retirement where they start drawing their pension. So they'll reduce their work hours for 6 months to a year or even more. This policy has been getting approved in 2-year blocks of time since it was implemented. And I apologize, it expired the end of 2020 and I didn't bring it to the board before it expired. But my request today is for the board to consider making this just a regular policy that we have in place for employees as an option. We do have a couple employees that are looking at possibly making requests under this policy too. We have somebody going back to school and they may want to reduce their hours but keep their full-time status, and the supervisor is supportive of that. And also somebody that is nearing retirement that would possibly like to go to part-time hours. So I am requesting the board approve this again and possibly consider just putting it in place as a regular personnel policy that we have. I did revise number 12 in the policy to say this program shall be reviewed by the personnel committee periodically and may be terminated by the county board at any time. So it's not like it still has to be in place forever. If at some point we feel it's not working or not necessary, it can be removed as a policy.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Now, considering that this has been a temporary policy for the last 12 years, and seems like about time that it just become permanent.
Mr. Chair, I do
Yes.
have a couple questions, though.
Sure.
Item 9, then it talks about the exempt status. Does that comply with fair labor laws? Because the requirements for exempt and not exempt is a little bit tricky at times, isn't it?
Sure. Yes. So basically this, in order to pay them correctly, we have to change them to hourly tracking, but it's still considered, the position itself is still considered an exempt from overtime position.
Okay.
Yep. But you're right, that does get tricky.
Gets a little tricky sometimes.
Yep.
I appreciate your ability to maneuver that. With the supervisor's permission, does that create any animosity amongst the employees as far as what is approved and what isn't approved? Has that been a pitfall so far for you?
I think it could, but I don't think it has. Most people don't want to reduce their salary too, because you're reducing your work hours and reducing your salary too. So I think people understand, if somebody really wants to do this, they're committing to agreeing to a reduced salary for their job as well.
And I was thinking from the standpoint of work output. If we've got a department that is thin already, then it puts that supervisor kind of in a tough spot if he's got employees saying, well, the other departments could do it, why don't you grant it for me? So that would be my only concern, and I can see where it'd be difficult.
Yeah. It hasn't been too big of an issue yet, so.
Great, good.
And it's not going to work for every department and every job either. That's just the fact. Just like telecommuting isn't going to work for every department and every job either. We have so many different departments and positions here, it's hard to create things that apply to everybody equally across the board. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next request I have this morning is the Deputy EMS Director position and job description. So I've been working with Casey on this. She had kind of put in a request earlier this year on the board possibly considering adding back a deputy EMS director. And we looked at the job description, and since the billing was outsourced in recent years, it did change a little bit. So the scope of the job has changed somewhat, and she did add in some requirements and duties that she would like this person to do. You can see in my request for board action, she has someone in mind for this position. Cole Nordmeyer is our current full-time paramedic, and he has taken on the various training programs for their department, for their EMTs and paramedics, and also other emergency services throughout the county. And he seems like a logical choice for this position. I do want to send this job description in to get it rated, just because it has changed somewhat. So I don't have a pay recommendation today. I don't know if it'll change or not. I have a feeling it'll be the same, but I don't know that for a fact. With this position, the budget impact is only a few $1,000s to add this in, just because the current pay range is one pay range higher than the paramedic position. And it's not adding a new position. She would be allocating 50% of his time as a deputy EMS director and 50% of his time as a full-time paramedic. And he would continue to work his 12-hour paramedic shifts and do his deputy EMS director work in between. We would like the effective date to be July 1st for this change and promotion. And I would be able to have a job description rating and pay recommendation at the July 13th board meeting. We pay retro, so that we would still be able to get the pay increase in for July 1st effective date.
So just for clarity, there wouldn't be any overtime costs then, since he'd be doing those duties while
Right.
not on a call,
I think
basically.
the only other thing was possibly, because he's right now scheduled 36 hours. Often they do get 40 hours anyway, just because calls run long or they have to come in early for a call. But possibly filling in that extra 4 hours with his time to bring it to 40 hours a week regular position may be part of the plan as well. Just because he is going to have some trainings at night and stuff too.
Sure.
So, I mean, but he's already doing those, so you already kind of have an overtime cost there anyway.
Okay.
So I don't see a large impact on overtime.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any, in fairness to the other employees, is it necessary to post this position? But at the same time, we want to acknowledge the fact that Cole's already taken the initiative to step up and take the courses and so forth to do it. But are we going to get ourselves in trouble if we don't post it?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
No.
I move for approval.
I will second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. That's all I had today, unless you had anything else for me.
Don't believe so. State shutdown.
Okay, we can take that on. Tyler, you want to come up a minute? That'd be fine.
Good morning.
Tyler.
Kind of lead into this, Mr. Chairman. What's going on is that we are potentially 8 days away from a state of Minnesota shutdown. We had an AMC meeting yesterday virtually, and some information came out of that. It sounds promising that they won't shut down, but if we don't talk about it, we're not doing our job to make sure that we're prepared in case the worst does happen. And there are certain things that will stop. We would potentially not get our CPA payment, our county program aid. Apparently in the Health and Human Services side, CCA subsidy payments would stop. They're planning on sending out up to 500,000 letters to people who are getting state aid people to let them know that their payments may not be coming after July 1st. Grant fundings would be in jeopardy too, that we're waiting for from EMPG from the state. Law enforcement potential, their grants could come out, would not be coming in. So this is, and one thing AMC made clear, that this is not the same as the 2011 shutdown when we had that. That happened July 1st, and that was the same week. And a matter of fact, when Ruthven got hit by the tornado, and we had no emergency management personnel from the state because they were all on furlough. So this time, the courts cannot intervene in this, and so when it's shut down, it would be shut down. Apparently, letters have gone out to all the rank and file employees of the state as of the 1st of June to let them know about the potential shutdown. So biggest thing what I want to do is have Tyler come down too, just to talk a little bit about our status of our finances, where we're at. Can we obviously pay the bills, until the state gets the monies back in?
Yep.
Make sure we've got enough in reserves to make sure we're doing that.
Yeah, so, obviously I'll echo Steve that, I don't necessarily think this is going to go on for a long period of time, but it's definitely possible for a month or two. So we usually get our CPA funding in August, as well as a lot of other state aids. Essentially all state aids come in end of July, beginning of August. That's when we get funded for those. I will say I'm not concerned with where we're at with fund balance whatsoever. Not necessarily just fund balance, but cash balance. As you may be aware, the investing market is little to zero right now, so we don't have as much money tied up in his investments as we would in prior years, because I can get just as much interest from letting it sit in a checking account than I can for investing it. So we're just we have a higher than normal fund balance in cash. So if this goes on 5-6 months, I don't think that we'll have a problem whatsoever. So I think we are sitting good. We always do sit very well. But having the fact that we don't have to worry about cashing in the CDs because it's just sitting in cash waiting for interest rates to go up right now, where you should be good to go. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Steve, some other possible ramifications. I would assume that the state wouldn't be issuing plumbing permits for building projects, as we're waiting on the.
Well, the trickle down is huge.
Yeah.
All those employees will not be working, so, plumbing, electrical, everything that they do. The biggest thing that's going to happen, and it came up very clearly yesterday, is if the state shuts down, they would shut down the state parks for the 4th of July weekend.
Yep.
And if you want to see
Yep.
pretty much of a bunch of cranky campers, just shut down the state park. So there's a lot of incentive, I think, to the legislature, both the Senate and the House, to come to terms on the budget and get things going. One thing we did learn is if they do pass, if the Senate and the House do pass one of their budget items and it goes to the governor, that would continue to go after the 1st of July. It's the ones that aren't settled. So, for instance, if they don't come to terms on the highway funding, that would end. But if they came to terms and say they took care of the Health and Human Services budget, that would move forward July 1st. So it's almost a hit and miss of how much they can get done in the next 8 days to get to that point. So if they finish the whole thing, get it done, and everybody votes on it, and they go home on the 30th, great. If they don't, things could shut down in a piecemeal fashion. But again, the Supreme Court does not have the authority to go back in and say, we're going to keep the lights on, you're going to pay the bills anyway. It's like, that's not going to happen this time.
And I don't know, to add to that, Steve, I don't know if you can kind of echo this. I think that what's really concerning people maybe at AMC this time is they're saying it's going to be done, but they're not really giving a whole lot of information. They've been very, very discreet. They don't really give any plans whatsoever. They're saying it'll be done, just kind of trust a word on this. Whereas prior years, they'll at least have some numbers put out there so you kind of understand where they're sitting at. This time it's very, very, I don't want to say backdoor, but they're very discreet.
Your cards close to their.
Very, very much so. And I don't know if that's because they can't find an agreement or if they truly think that this isn't really that much of an issue. But we're getting kind of close to that cutoff for it to not be an issue, which is what I think is kind of scaring people right now. So.
And even if the leaders come to an agreement, they may not be able to get their caucus to
Correct.
agree to it.
Exactly, especially at this short amount of time as well. So we're definitely getting up against the 8 ball. But like I said, majority of our funding comes in August, end of July and August, so that would buy us a whole nother month for our funding at least. Obviously, there's other ramifications that we have to worry about, but as far as cash and all of our aids, I don't think we should have an issue. So.
They did stress yesterday about the funding difference between 2017 when it shut down. They said 80% of things are funded because the judge ordered them and had to be. And they won't do that now this year. Something changed. Now it's going to be more of an impact. Hopefully they understand that.
So again, this was information, not expecting the board to take any action at this point. If we need to meet to make any decisions, we'll call a special meeting, or we'll just have our regular meeting in July, so
Okay.
keep everyone advised what's going on.
And that's as late as it can be, just about, isn't it? The 13th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
I don't know what else to say. Exactly. Wait and see, pretty much.
See,
They did say call your legislator, but I don't know if their phone is busy right now, probably.
Doesn't say what to call them.
No, they didn't say what to call them.
Anything else?
Don't
For me? All
believe
right.
so at this time.
Perfect.
They're ganging up on us now.
I think so. I think so.
just a couple things I can add to that. I sent out and put in your boxes too a copy of the AMC update. I highlighted a couple things in there that, on the back of the, I would say the fourth page, since it's back to back, on the transportation and infrastructure bill, this, about 2/3 of the way down, there's a bullet point in there that says, below some of the highlights of the bill, one of them says, additional $5 million into the county state aid highway fund. And then one below that is interesting, because we were talking last meeting about driver exam stations, that $2.598 million in each year of the biennium for cost to reopen all driver's license exam locations that were closed in 2020 due to COVID. So the legislature is stepping up, funding that, and if that goes, this gets passed under the transportation infrastructure bill, they would reopen all of the driver's license testing stations.
Good.
So I know that was an issue that came out, and you know, Tyler had been here too, and he had mentioned too that the state is looking at that time, not reopening them. So they left it was the legislature's responsibility. This next page, I highlighted under bonding. It talks about the bonding bill. It says, we know the broadband funding will be included in the bonding bill, and the agreed upon target for broadband was $70 million over the biennium coming from the ARPA Capital Projects Fund. The Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition put out an action alert this morning urging members to contact their legislators and make sure they are passing a bonding bill that includes a minimum of the $70 million for the border-to-border broadband grant program. So we wouldn't hurt if any of the board members wanted to get a hold of Schomacher and Weber and have them support that. That would be great too, and I'll go ahead and make sure I send information to them too to support that as well. So they'd like to hear from not just me, they'd like to hear from you guys as well, so that would be great. One other thing that caught my attention under the natural environment, natural resources one, is on the second to last page, the last thing they put in there, the state support for the SWCDs was once again a significant issue of debate, but will continue to come from the Clean Water Fund, $12 million per year. So to me, that says that they have tossed out that idea of using money from the recorder's office to help fund that,
Good.
which needed to go away.
Right.
So that's where they're at on that. So if they pass the environmental and natural resources, that would be in there as well. But of course, this is all what's going on, and it's still subject to debate, change, you know, whatever the Senate and the Republicans and the Democrats and the Republicans decide to do on this. So that's where they're at right now anyway. So that's just a couple of them that I picked out of there that had local importance to us. So. Okay, with that, move on, Mr. Chairman.
Should we take a brief recess so we can look over the commissioner warrants and whatnot?
Okay, we're back in session.
Okay, let's go back to the consent agenda. Everyone had a chance to look that over?
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Okay,
Second.
okay, move in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Want to go to the closed session, or? you wanna do that
Mr.
at
Chairman,
the
I'd just
end?
as soon do that the last thing if we
Okay.
could. Let's
Then
finish
let's move
everything
on to
else
the per diem for the NACO conference. Basically, of course, when the NACO conference is far away, we wouldn't be going at all. The only reason that I'd have any interest in attending this year is because there's somebody from Minnesota running for second vice president, and if you want to vote, you have to participate, and I think there would be some benefit to having somebody from Minnesota on the NACO board. Last time it happened was 20-some years ago. And obviously, at a time when you know they're going to be spending a lot of money in the next few years, whether we're in favor of it or not, it would be nice to have somebody in one of those positions to help direct some of that funding to our own state. And it just kind of makes sense to me that that would be a good thing. It is a fairly large time commitment, frankly. It's over several days, and but they do have a number of sessions regarding, a lot of this federal funding that's coming out, a lot of ag and rural development type issues for sessions. Broadband, and of course the election portion.
Mr. Chairman, we are members of NACO already. All the counties in Minnesota are. We are dues paying, and we did register one of our members, Chairman Johnson, for the conference virtually. And that does give us access, as he did mention, to, we do have one of our Mary Jo McGuire is running for second vice president, and would like to see as many, obviously, Minnesota counties attend this, and at least be able to share their votes and authorize, actually, I think we'd be authorizing Rich Thay to be the voting member for Pipestone County to be able to cast the vote. And we'd have a potential, if all members did, we have potential of 146 votes, I think it was, that they mentioned yesterday at the AMC meeting in the whole state, if everyone were able to do that.
Right, but each county only has one vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
There are some counties, the larger counties do
Oh,
have
that's
more
right.
than one.
They talked about that.
There are, I imagine
Some of the metro counties, they said, had quite a
probably
few
have
more.
more votes
yeah.
depending on population, but most of us have one vote. So we are registered, and Luke did say he'd be able to take in some of it, and there's obviously some good things on there. I think there's some benefit to it. It's no travel advised, but it would be per diem
Yeah, it'd just be
for
from
the
here.
meetings you'd be taking in.
How do we facilitate casting that one vote then? Like I said, we have to give Rich our proxy. Does that have to be?
There's a process you have to, I'm in the process of working that out. I tried to do it yesterday, and because I forgot my password, I was trying to get it reset, and I even had somebody helping me, and it wasn't working yet, but I'm supposed to call the guy tomorrow, and they're gonna get it worked out, but.
Motion to authorize per diem
Thank you.
for the NACO.
I'll second that. How many days is the conference going to run?
It runs from July 8th to 12th. I think there's only one day that I am not able to attend.
And how many hours per day?
It ranges from 6 to one's about 8. I'd say in this 6 to 5 to 8, depending on which day. 5 to 8 hours a day. So that's why I say it's a pretty healthy time commitment.
I don't think most of the content is really over the weekend. Monday is the election, the voting day. I think Thursday is was evening things when I was looking at it.
Actually, Thursday, there's
Something
like
there.
a 6-hour tech summit with planning for, basically it's a lot on that, the federal funds for that ARPA stuff
Oh, okay. Good.
and on broadband. Friday's mostly environmental, ag and rural development, and then another ARPA session where I think they're gonna talk about, and I had this conversation with Mike Slavic at our district meeting, that apparently if the counties take their lost revenue portion from that, you're able to then use the money any way you want versus the restrictions you'd have if you leave it. You know, because if the county gets to recover their losses, then you can use that lost revenue any way you want versus you'd have certain restrictions if you leave it in the ARPA fund and use it direct. So there might be some benefit to exploring that. I know, you know, what we get compared to what Dakota County gets is significantly different. What did you say, Steve? It was like tens of millions of dollars that they got. So he said that, say if they get 30% of that and then can use it any way they want, well, that's pretty attractive. And I mean, for us, it'd probably be, you know, a few $100,000 at best. But even so, it might be worthy of exploring.
Well, we need to stay informed, and this is one way of staying informed. I don't know if, personally, I don't think I would have time for it. And are we authorizing one person to draw per diems for this? Not all of us. Is that what?
That would be entirely up to the board. If other board members want to attend this virtually, I will be glad to sign you up, and we'd have, you know,
Right.
we'd have
I
more,
mean, it's
we'd have more
basically-
people involved in, but we still have one vote.
Right.
And that's the main thing we want to do, is at least get our vote taken in there and at least have one of the board members get involved and attend the virtually NACO conference. But I'd be happy to, you know, enroll any member that wanted
I
to.
mean, I have to admit, I was a little hesitant myself just due to the time commitment.
Yeah.
But yet, you know, being on the AMC board, I didn't want to seem like we didn't care or whatever. I mean, I do see the benefit in having somebody on the NACO board in leadership. I'm glad it's not me. Okay, we do have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approved Lincoln Pipestone Rural Water Board members.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, before you, a recommendation for the 2022 to 25 years for potential members of the Lincoln Pipestone Rural Water Board, Mr. Joseph Weber, Mr. Rod Spronk, Mr. Jerry Loneman are listed there. And these would be for 4-year terms. And there's a resolution in there stating, now be it resolved that the Pipestone County Board of Commissioners hereby recommends that Joseph Weber, Rod Spronk, and Jerry Loneman be appointed to the Lincoln Pipestone Rural Water System Board of Commissioners pursuant to and provided for by Minnesota Statute 116A for a 4-year term which shall commence on January 1, 2022 and shall expire at midnight on December 31st, 2025.
Mr. Chair, I'll move for approval.
Okay.
I would second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else besides the closed session, Steve?
Last thing I have in there is that in-person meeting attendance effective July 15th. The reason that's, early on, we had heard that that was going to be July 1st, but since governor's executive powers go through July 14th, that's when the all in-person meetings would start. With that, would be with our July 27th meeting would be our meeting. Of course, if we have budget meetings, we'd be all in person as well. But basically, the in-person, as we had County Attorney Sandy was here, talked about it, And basically, we go back to the way we are, and if any board member wants to do it, the regulation of having that access be public, where the board member would be on, is still in effect, so it'd have to be in a public place, so that's probably some issues about that. It sounds like most of the issues are going to be for, not necessarily county boards, but for ancillary boards, committees, that type of thing, where they've gotten used to doing this, and it may put a hardship on them. But basically, effective July 15th, Pipestone County Board of Commissioners would go back to in-person meetings.
And I would just throw in, I spoke to the MCIT rep at the district meeting, and she felt that a meeting notice would be required even at a public location.
Yeah.
So a 3-day notice, so I'm guessing that will make it more challenging for people to want to do that, or, so basically it means you're back in person.
Right. So basically, our last Zoom meeting will be the 13th of July for the county board. So just information on how we'll be handling that, so board doesn't have to take official action because the state has already enacted it for us.
Okay. I wonder what happens if they have a state shutdown and they have to extend the governor's powers. How does that work? Or do they just end and,
Sunset.
yeah,
Well, if he wanted to extend them for another 30 days, he would have to bring them back into session on.
regardless of whether they're shut
Regardless.
down or not?
Yeah, regardless, they would be back to, if he wanted to extend the powers. Well, I would hope that the government would be working during that time leading up to
You
the
would hope so.
14th to get their act together.
Of course, we were hoping they were working prior to when the session ended.
Hope they'd get it taken care of, so.
Okay, then I guess we can move on to our closed session on the real estate purchase discussion.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we go into closed session to discuss real estate purchase.
Okay,
Second.
motion, and then second, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Do we need to mute the phone and so forth?
Yeah, we'll have to do that too. Who made the motion?
I did.
Okay, Dan.
Right, I second it.
Chris, thank you.
Unanimous.
Phone is muted. Okay.
Okay, we are back in session. Anything else to come before the board today?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Tuesday at 10:30?
Yep.
I'll be there. Yep. I'll be right there because I'm working till 10, so I'll be rolling in the parking lot right on time, so.
Steve, you've got everything for equipment there. We don't